And we are live here in the Storycraft Cafe. I am your host, Hank Garner, and today, super excited to be joined by an old friend of mine. Jonathan Yanez is one of the most prolific authors that I know. We were just chatting before we went live, and Jonathan and I have been writing and publishing for a very similar amount of time. Jonathan has one of the most dedicated reader base fans, if you will, that are rabid for anything that he does. And I love seeing when he posts something on Facebook and people just rally behind it. And Jonathan has a really interesting um, uh, turn to his author career in the last couple of years, where he and his wife, Jennifer, are taking some of the stories that he's written and bringing them to the screen. And amazing stuff going on there. So, really expanding the reach of what an indie author can do and how an indie author can connect with their readers and their tribe. And I'm just so looking forward to this conversation today. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hank, thanks so much for asking me. We were talking about before, like I was apologizing to you how bad I am in keeping in contact. It's like one of my greatest strengths, but also a curse that I'm so laser focused on the
Yeah.
next thing. I need like to take a step back and reach out to those friends that you haven't talked to in a long time, just to say hi
Yeah.
or what's going on. So I was saying thanks to you. Thank you for reaching out to me. Like, yes, of course I want to spend time with Hank. I should have reached out to him sooner.
It's all good. It's all good. Jonathan, when I first discovered your work, a number of years ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago, but the I'm trying to pinpoint exactly the series that I connected with you with first was the Archangel series. And the exact name of the series is eluding me, but what is that series?
Yeah, just that you remember that much is impressive because
Oh,
the Archangel Wars is the second
Archangel Wars.
series that
Yes.
I ever
Okay.
wrote. So we're talking like if I started writing 13, 12, maybe like 11 or 10 years ago,
Okay.
that series came out. It's a good memory.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that series so much, because, it took things that I love, some, um, uh, some history, some religious history, some, and then speculative. You left room in some of the stories that you took and then kind of speculated as to where it could go or where it has gone, and that was such a fun series for me. What was the original impetus for for writing that series and kind of where you took it?
Yeah, I don't know if you can relate to this when you're writing, but I feel like my imagination is kind of like just a meat grinder. We have
Yeah,
you intake all these different ideas, and then your imagination gets to play, and then you start asking the question, what if? Well, I wonder if we could
right.
mix
Yeah,
angels here on Earth, and what if these angels had different powers and they recruited humans to do their bidding? And what if the seven ancient wonders of the world each held a secret? So you start combining all these different elements, and then you just listen to your characters and see where the story takes you.
right, right. It's so fun, so fun. Um, One thing that you're kind of known for in the indie author space is this rabid readership, this wolf pack that you put together of people that follow you across subgenres, and they're really fans of Jonathan, and they're like, I'll go with Jonathan wherever he goes, which is kind of antithetical to what we these ideas that we've gotten about indie publishing, especially, that once you find a lane and you find a readership, never stray from that, because people won't follow you to the other things. And every writer I know is interested in a million things. They might have just hit on something in particular that they're interested in, but just because I write science fiction doesn't mean that I'm not intrigued by an archaeological thriller, or an Indiana Jones story, as well as Star Wars, as well as Lord of the Rings. I have varied interest all over the place, and people are scared to leave what readers resonate with. How did you first start to realize that, I've kind of planted my flag here, but I also kind of want to do this and that? And how do you get people to follow you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. The basic answer is I did everything wrong from the beginning. So I have a lot of get up and go when I'm super self motivated
Yeah.
and I'll go, but sometimes to my detriment, I'm just so laser focused and going. I'm not like taking a step back. Okay, wait a minute. Maybe I should just write in one genre because
Yeah.
that would help, the people find my work or if I'm known for a certain thing. I didn't know
Yeah.
you were supposed to do that starting off. And by the time I figured out, like, oh, you're supposed to do this, it was too late. I was
Yeah,
already
right.
angels and werewolves, and we were in space. There's zombie apocalypses happening in another series. The cat was out of the bag. The
Right.
zombie was loose. So I had to kind of ask myself, like, okay, I think in retrospect, it probably would have been an easier, faster road if I had picked one genre and just written that one genre. So for better or for worse, I didn't know you were supposed to do that. So I was writing all over the place. And then again, once I realized, hey, you are supposed to only write in one genre, is too late. So I just decided to embrace it. I was going to go with it. And then to the credit, and I'm so grateful for readers who are willing to trust me and take a journey with me where they might be used to reading sci-fi, but they would trust me and maybe, hey, it's okay. Let's listen or read a little bit of urban fantasy to see what's happening there. And then also early on too, my wife really helped with this because she was in the marketing and advertising space before she came to work for our company. Is early on, I would thought you had to brand each series individually, like logos, groups, like it had to be
Right.
its own entity. And then she helped me understand that the brand is me as an
Right.
author, and that will save us time. We won't have to brand or try to make every genre I write in almost like its own character. I'm basically the character, and that's helped too.
Yeah. I talked with a good friend this past week, Rick Partlow. I know that you probably know Rick.
Yeah.
Who we were talking about kind of the current state of military sci-fi, and he had just published like book 69 or some insane Rick Partlow
Yeah,
thing,
he's a machine.
and yeah, he's a machine. And he was saying that kind of the way things are going for him at the moment is that the old um kind of conventional wisdom was build your back catalog so that when people discover you, they have a lot of stuff that they can go back and pick from of stuff that you've already published. So then when someone discovers a book of yours, they have the opportunity to discover 10 books of you. And he was saying that the way things are going in military sci-fi right now, people are there for new releases, and they don't really comb through your back catalog so much, which is, and I have no reason to doubt anything that Rick says. That's what's happening for him at the moment, and that's Rick's story. But I know in your case, you very much uh, kind of work that back catalog, and you expect people that when they discover you and they discover this sci-fi western series, that maybe they would also like to go read this and like that. So how do you look at marketing these days, and do you find that the things that used to be kind of gospel truth, build that back catalog and that sort of stuff, does that stuff still work for you?
Yeah, so I would agree with Rick definitely where nothing sells like a new release. Like a
Sure.
new release will do the best out of
Right.
anything that any of my back catalog. But what I kind of realized is early on in my career, I was writing a book a month, just paying my like nobody knew who I was. So I had to like
Right.
by sheer content, I had to like pump it out there and show
Sure.
everybody like I wasn't going anywhere. I had a new
Yeah.
release every month. Over the years now, I went from writing a book every month to writing a book every 6 months to now writing a book every 4 months. And soon we're going to go to be writing a book every, I'll have two releases a year. So every year I'll have like two releases, right? So just going down that line. So starting off with 12, then 6 a year, then 4 a year, then 2 a year. So what I was thinking now is like, okay, how do I continue to grow readership and grow income if I'm going to be writing less? So what we started doing, again, it's my wife, it's not me. We started selling direct. because as many as of you know, Amazon takes a percentage when you sell
Sure.
off Amazon. So we look to see how much traffic we could drive to our own site and sell direct from our own site, and it's been huge. And so our
Really?
goal, yes, is to try to get readers interested into that
Yeah.
first book in a series, and then give them a great deal on the rest of the book in the series. And we've seen a huge impact from that on our bottom line. Where now Amazon is still our top distributor,
Sure.
but our website is really a really close second. So I'm looking to see
Wow.
when we can overtake and be the number one spot. So we're not just reliant on Amazon. And again, it's not Amazon. I'm not like a doom and gloom on Amazon, but just like I don't like to be reliant on anybody
Of
if I can help
course.
it.
Of course. And you know, someone may, if they're new to the author space and the indie author space, and they may see this concept, and more people are talking about direct sales, and they may think, oh, that's just what I want to do. I want to bypass Amazon and all that. But I think there's wisdom in using the existing platforms to get your name out there. Like, how much do you attribute, if there had not been an Amazon to begin with, would it have been harder to kind of get this direct sales spun up? And yeah, I would imagine that Amazon has been helpful to build that initial readership, even if you see long term that it will be beneficial to send people directly to your site.
Oh, yeah, for sure, without a doubt. And what's cool is if you are able to write more than one series, you're writing more than one book. In the future, as your backlist grows, there's nothing to say you couldn't have some titles in
Right.
Amazon and Kindle Unlimited exclusively, and you could have other titles that you sell from your site. Or you could even do kind of like that, maybe a 90-day window. Once you sell the book on your site, and then for 90 days, it goes into Kindle Unlimited. You can get the best of both worlds. But I agree with you. I am grateful to Amazon starting off. They made it very easy for
Right.
me to kind of get started. And now direct sales is kind of an evolution
Yeah.
of kind of like now that we understand more and that we know more, we understand how to drive traffic to our website and how to get our books into people's hands outside of the Amazon ecosystem. Like it's all good.
Yeah. So what things are you seeing that are really working for you guys to drive direct sales? Is it just kind of accumulating this readership over time? Is it mailing list? Or is mailing list still king and direct marketing?
Yes. So what helps a lot for direct sales is running Facebook ads to our site. And then once someone purchases from our site, they're giving us their email. So we have direct access then to
Right.
these readers. Where Amazon, if somebody purchases one of our books on Amazon, we don't get to know who that person is or that reader is. We don't get their email. We have no way to contact them again. So Facebook drives them to our site, and then we get their email, and then they're on our list. So we have one email list where I've kind of grown within the Amazon ecosystem for years now since we've been doing this, but a much newer list, and I would even say more robust list that we started at the beginning of 2023. We started selling direct. So we've been doing it for just over a year and a half. But in that list, there's already thousands of new readers giving us their
Nice.
email, and we have direct access to those readers.
Wow. Wow. With you scaling down your output to a couple of books a year, what are you focusing on? Have you really honed in on what subgenre people are most interested in? Are you still or is your attention varied and your staggering releases? What are you focusing on?
Yeah, so what helped a lot is even though I'm releasing a lot less novels each year. I'm not working any less, but now my work has kind of shifted into doing movies and TV shows, and not only writing but producing these TV shows. And producing just means basically like you're the captain of the ship. Like you're
Right.
putting all the different puzzle pieces together and making sure everything goes right. And if
Yeah.
anything goes wrong, then it's on you. You got to figure it
Right.
out.
Right. So, tell me where this came from. Like, how did you get to start playing in the visual medium field, the TV, the movies? I think a lot of authors imagine their books, coming to life with actors and and a budget and sets and all this kind of stuff. But how does that become a reality?
I mean, as crazy it sounds, like God's put that in my heart from early on. Like I love stories in any format. I love
Yeah,
watching TV shows, I love movies, I love listening to audiobooks, I love reading, I love video
sure.
games, comic books. I love it all. But film is something that I was like, okay, like I understood that was my calling somehow early on. Like I was always kind of like the forbidden fruit that had to be tasted. We just didn't know how to do it. So finally
Yeah,
we got to a point where like we don't have all the answers in publishing, but we understand that machine now and how it
sure.
works.
Yeah,
So that's kind of like on autopilot, working and chugging away. So if I had more time now, that I have time, I don't have to write a book a month anymore. I'm writing 4 books a year, so 4 books a year, eventually two. What am I going to do with that time? And I was like, okay, this is it. Got to take a leap of faith. It's
right.
time to go. It's time to spread my wings, little eagle. Jump out of the
Yeah,
nest and
right,
just trust that God's going to send that wind to help carry you.
right.
So we did. So we just started like, okay, how do we unravel this? Just so it started like, step one. Recently, I took up boxing. I say recently, that's like 2 years ago. A few years ago, I took up boxing, and I felt like a child learning how to walk for the first time because there's
Right.
certain footsteps and movements and turns and
Except
pivots.
someone swinging at your head the whole time.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. That you use while you're learning to, almost walk for the first time. And
right.
film was the same way. I was walking for the first time. I didn't know anything. I didn't know the difference between like a line producer, executive producer, associate producer. I didn't know what a cinematographer was. I thought the director did that whole thing. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
right,
the director's not a cinematographer. That's somebody else.
right,
So all
right,
this, we just started unraveling. I think it just came down to me being willing to empty my cup and just to admit to people like, I don't know anything. I just want to learn. I'm that
right.
excited kid on the bench who's just happy to sit on the bench just to learn and watch other people playing. And I
Yeah,
think just having an open heart and being like no pride at all, just starting from the ground up really helped. And I think people recognize that. And then I feel like good people, just like within the publishing space, like good people find you. You start going to like film conferences or book conferences and finding similar minded people. And there's always the good ones and the bad ones. But I think just like in the author community, I feel like there's more good ones than bad ones.
sure.
And I feel like Hollywood gets a bad rap. There definitely are some bad ones. I could tell you some stories.
Oh,
But
I can
there
imagine.
are, in my experience, there are more good people who just want to create film than the bad
Yeah.
ones.
Well, and in the author space, you learn pretty quick that we are not in competition with each other. We're in competition with all of the other things that are vying for people's attention. And if we get people to read, they are more likely to read all of us instead of just oh, I'm just going to pick something Hank wrote, or I'm just going to pick something Jonathan wrote, and it's not as territorial as all that. And I feel like any artistic pursuit, once you kind of get past that mentality of lack, that you start realizing that we all benefit from more people consuming what we're putting out
Yes, no, that's 100%. And I feel like, again, for the most part, I
for
feel
the
like,
most part.
and then
Right.
I can only speak from my experience, but for the most part, in my experience, film is the same way. There's so
Yeah.
many great people out there who are just excited to work on a project, and it's not like they're, are trying to, they think, they have to beat everybody else out. Like a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time, a lot of actors know each other, and they're
Sure.
excited for each other getting roles and wanting to work. And more so than the author community, Hollywood, as I'm sure you know, is a lot about who you know. Because at a certain
Sure.
point, everybody's good or everybody's pretty good at a certain point. But
Yeah.
then, like, who do you know who could be like, yeah, I want to work with you on this project. I want to take you with me on this adventure as we go shoot this next movie.
Gotcha. I would imagine I don't know anything about the film space really, but I would imagine that the internet has leveled the playing field in so many ways and made things accessible that never would have been accessible, a couple decades ago. From the way we distribute things to the way that we can build audience, the internet has connected us and lowered the wall of entry, made things more accessible to all of us. Um, had- when you first started kind of, wanting to learn, what were some of the things that you realized, and did you realize that, okay, now is probably the best time ever to get into this because I do now have all of these opportunities open that technology has allowed.
Right. I feel like what you're saying, like anything else that you look at, it could seem like a big project just from the outside. Be
Yep.
like, oh, making a movie. That sounds crazy. That sounds like a lot of work. And it is a lot of work. Don't get me
Sure.
wrong. But I just think about my 8-year-old. So I have a daughter who's 8 and we mow the lawn together. She has her own lawnmower. So she's mowing the lawn. And I remember early on for 8-year-old, a big lawn could seem like a lot of work. And it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I tell her, like, you just 1 foot at a time, 1 step at a time. You can't think of like, sit down and, oh my gosh, I have to mow this whole lawn. But it's 1 foot at a time. You make one line and then you turn it around and just concentrate on the next line. It's 1 foot in front of the other. And film is a lot. I feel like anything's pretty much that way.
Yeah.
But film, there's like a clear path in film. So first you need to get a script. Like what story are you going to tell? What script are you going to write? So if you have a script, from that script, you could pull your budget. So scene by scene, you could break it down. But okay, for this scene, I'm going to need this type of camera. These actors are going to have to be there, hair and makeup, stunts, whatever it might be. So you break it down and then you have a budget. So not only do you have your story, you have your budget, then you get to go find funding, which is fun. So you could either do like a Kickstarter, you could find private investors. Like there's all different ways to do it. But like what you're saying with the cost of entry being lowered, I feel it's
Yeah.
very accessible now, even with the amount of people who want to work. So I feel like almost in the indie space in Hollywood, it's looked at as the indie space in publishing, where it's not looked down upon, maybe where it could have been like that in the future. Like I feel like people just want to work with good people. So if you have a great meeting, they share the vision, whether you're an indie project or you're the next Marvel movie, if you can get people excited. And I think that barrier for entry has been lowered in that way as well.
Right. Last week, we had a mutual friend of ours, Nick Cole, was on the show. And
Yeah.
Nick is one of my oldest friends in the publishing business. And as a matter of fact, he was interview number 4 that I ever did on this podcast. And I went back and listened to that interview that I did with Nick over 10 years ago. And I don't recommend anybody do that, but I went back and listened. And one of the things that we talked about was that Nick had come, he was a veteran and then he got into acting. And then from acting, he got into writing. And one of the things we talked about was that there are so many frustrated actors, directors, producers who wind up writing fiction because they kind of get to be they get to wear all the hats and they get to make all of the decisions. And as a fiction writer, you're in control of everything. You're the costumer, you're the plotter, you're directing action, the whole thing. And now, coming at it from the opposite direction, where now you're used to being in control of everything as a fiction writer, and now you are collaborating with other people to bring this vision that you and only you have written all this time, but now you're trusting other people and you're working with them and collaborating, so that now it kind of becomes the sum of all the parts are greater than, I guess the end product is greater than the sum of all the parts when you bring people in and work with them. How has that experience been for you, kind of reverse engineering what so many people come to writing fiction, because they're so frustrated with the process? What's it like to be the sole creator and now expand your world by working with others?
I think if you have good people that you're working with, it could be a lot of fun and they could enhance
Sure.
and level up your writing and your story and your ideas in ways that you never imagined. So when I watch the process that being filmed, I am a big believer in one leader, right? You can't have multiple leaders or else that's
Yeah.
just going to be chaos. So on set, like I'm a producer, I'm making sure that the director has everything he needs, the actors have everything they need, that we stay on a schedule to make sure we're getting all the shots that we need each day to, hit our time schedule.
Yeah.
But other than that, I am fine letting go because again, you have to trust the people you're working with. But if you have a good team that you trust, it shouldn't be a problem. Like a lot of times when they're filming, I'm making sure that the food is going to be delivered on time. I'm making sure that this actor, he hasn't showed up yet. I need to call him and be like, hey, are you on your way? Are you like
Right.
5 minutes out? Did you forget? And, it was fine. He was like 10 minutes out.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. But I intentionally remove myself almost if I don't have to be there where things are being shot, because I want the director to feel like they're trusted. They're trusted. It's their show. They don't need me looking over their shoulder, to like nitpick different things. And then also in post production, there's way more moving parts too. Like a lot of people think like, oh, once you film it, like once the cameras are rolling, it's done. It's done. That's just like the work is just beginning. So then you have to get
Right.
the editor, right, to edit all the correct scenes together. And then you have to have a colorist who colors the film the way you want or the way the directors and you have decided. Then there's music, there's sound design, which is like the sound effects that are going off in the film over and over again. And at each step, you need to be able to trust those people that they're the right people for the job. And the actors too. The actors you have to trust, be like, hey, we talked about this vision. I'm going to trust that you're going to execute. And a lot of times you're pleasantly surprised. Like they're bringing their best. So they're bringing things to the character that you hadn't even thought about.
Right. You sent me a video for the Infinity System, the pilot episode of that. So good, so good. Space Western, and I I loved it so much. There's so much potential there. I can't wait to. Where did this come from? And like, how did we go from you have this idea to now we have a full episode that we can watch? Walk me through kind of how this came to be.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It was our first film, so we made a ton of mistakes and we learned a ton. But just the group of people that came together to make it did such a great job. I think like on YouTube, it's at like a 95% approval rate or something like that, with a quarter
Nice.
million views already behind it. So it's a testament to that group of people who came together to make it. But early on, we were just looking to make something. Like I need to make something. Maybe it's not a full-length movie, maybe it's just a pilot episode, right? Maybe it's like
Yeah.
a half-hour episode if I can't do like an hour and a half movie. So I met with our director, Matthew Charles Hall, for lunch one day, and we were just talking kind of like, what do you want to do? I don't know, what kind of story do you want to tell? Because for me, outside of horror and romance, like straight romance, I feel
Yeah.
like I could pretty much write everything. And there's in my stories, there are like horror elements, there's scary parts, and there's
Sure.
definitely like the romantic love interest. So
Right.
even those two, I feel like I can touch on a little bit and write a little bit of that. So when we were talking kind of like, what do you love? What do I love? We're talking about John Wayne. We both grew up watching John Wayne and
Oh
Westerns.
yeah.
And there's not like a whole lot of space Westerns made in general, let alone not made anymore. We thought about Firefly, how much we enjoy that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like where the idea came from. We started spitballing. I wrote the first draft and sent it to the director, and he loved it. And he had some ideas to throw in there, and we changed until we came out with the plot of Infinity System.
I love it. Are there going to be more episodes?
Yeah, so right now the idea was to shoot the pilot episode and then to leverage that to get funding to do an entire TV show, 6, 8 episodes. And what's happening now is there's been interest from a big publishing house, because Infinity System, I just wrote the script. It doesn't exist as a book. Like you couldn't go pick up the novel Infinity System and see what happens. But from that pilot that we shot, a major publishing house has reached out and offered a book deal. And then the idea
Nice.
for them, they would like a full TV series as well. And they were saying kind of like the traditional model of doing this would be that it's picked up for a book deal and you make a big splash, hopefully with the book deal,
Right.
it does well. And then that's like a traditional model where Hollywood will take
Right.
notice and then pick up the rights. But in our case, since we already have a pilot, everything should be able to work that much faster, that much clearer, if we can show Hollywood like, hey, this already exists. 250,000 people love it.
Right.
All we need is a little bit more money and we can go ahead and make a full season.
Just a little bit more
Just a
money.
little bit more.
Yeah, we can totally make this happen. You this was a new property that was not based on any of the books that you've written, but you do have a lot of existing IP or intellectual property out there in different series that you've created. Have you thought about bringing some of them to the screen, and what are your plans for other projects?
Yeah, I'm not very good, Hank, at doing nothing. I need to be doing something.
Sure,
Even if it's just
sure.
like playing video games or working out, I need to be
Yeah,
doing something. So while Infinity System is kind of like going through its growth process of the big book deal and then getting pitched for a TV series, my wife and I looked at each other and like, what are we going to do next? And we thought to ourselves, like, selves, we have other IP. We have other books.
right.
Instead of getting, a brand new IP, What if we got a pre-existing IP and took it to film? So we did a Kickstarter for Forsaken Mercenary, and Forsaken Mercenary raised enough money where we were able to shoot a movie of Forsaken Mercenary. So we shot that last October. Um, Again, just learning, just like in life, like every time you do something, hopefully, excuse me, you're getting a little bit better. So
Yeah.
we learned from Infinity System what we could be doing better. So this time around, we had a fight choreography crew come out from, they did a movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
So we had them come out to do our fight choreography for Forsaken Mercenary. The team and set designer who did Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, they came out to build our sets. And
Yeah.
then we were able to get a casting director this time around. So casting director has relationships with a lot of different agents and actors out there. So you can
Sure.
tell them kind of like who you're looking for, and they're able to get in contact with them. So we were able to get Jesse Cove, who's Martin Cove's son from Cobra Kai. So Jesse is our main hero. And then Tatiana Gator, who works at, she's the fiance of Taryn Butler, who trains
Okay.
at Taryn, who owns Taryn Tactical. They've trained Keanu Reeves and Jamie Foxx and Henry Cavill for Highlander. They're training all the actors. So we're able to bring, as we level up and we're growing, bigger and bigger names to our projects. And Forsaken Mercenary now is in post production. So the CGI is all done, VFX is all finished, editing, colorist. We're now into music and sound design. So the score is being created
Oh,
for it. And then sound design, like, how does the dropship sound when it takes off?
right.
When the blasters are going off, what do those sound like? The
Right.
vibro blade, when the vibro blade comes out in the bar fight, like what does the does a vibro blade crackle? Or like what does that sound like? So we're almost there now. We're hoping by October we'll have it all wrapped up and then start showing.
I'm getting chill bumps just thinking about it. That's gonna
It's
be
been fun.
so awesome. That's gonna be so awesome. So, any idea what kind of channels you're gonna be able to release? Do you have a plan, or kind of where's it going once it's all finished and packaged up?
Yeah. So different projects or the way that you do film, if you don't have somebody who's giving you the money or already bought it or giving the money
Right.
to produce it with a distribution platform,
Right.
what you do is you take it to film festivals. So Sundance or Dances with Films is another one, South by Southwest.
Yeah.
You go to the film festivals and there you show it. And that's where you make your connections for distribution or for sales agents. There's also the American film market. I mean, just like books, agents go to different book festivals.
Yeah.
Same thing for film. You go to different film festivals, you make your connections for sales. So that's what we plan on doing for Forsaken Mercenary. Forsaken Mercenary should be done by the end of the year. So we'll have like a little private showing for like the cast and the crew. But
Right.
then next year will be the film festival run. And usually what's traditional for films is a year run, where for a year you show it at different film festivals, make your connections and selling it and stuff like that.
So awesome. I remember the indie author space a decade ago, a little longer, where there were certain voices that were doing so much work to raise the knowledge level for other authors and to bring knowledge and wisdom to help everyone else level up. I'm thinking about a lot of the work that Hugh Howey did back in the day, Joanna Penn. So many names, and I feel like you are in kind of on the ground level for taking this indie author to indie filmmaker step, and that's so much that you guys are learning through this process is going to be so beneficial to others. Have you talked with other authors that see what you guys are doing and are like, wow, that I didn't even know this was possible. I want to get in on this.
Yeah, for sure. So the first film, Infinity System, some authors saw it and they started asking questions. And again, like I'm an open book. Like I am a good sharer. So I told them, like, hey, if you want to see how it's done, come to the set of Forsaken Mercenary when we film. I'll put you to work as a producer, but you'll learn. You could, if you want to do this
Right.
for your own stories and your own books, you can see firsthand exactly what it's like and exactly what you need. So we had some authors take us up on that. So when we filmed Forsaken Mercenary last year, we had two authors, three authors in the community come out and they helped on all hands on deck. So kind of like what you're saying too is just like audiobooks are way more accessible now than they
Sure.
were, 10 years ago. I feel like in 10 years, film, I mean, it's already starting now, maybe not even 10 years, maybe 5 years.
Right.
In a few
Right.
years, film will be the same way for authors. So just like an author, like, okay, you got to find a voice actor that you enjoy. You have to make sure you sign contracts with them, have a timeline, you follow up. They'll send you back edits that might need to be changed or transitioned, and then you edit it and get it out. Film is going to be the same way. And
Yeah.
again, there's already authors that are reaching out to me asking me how I've done it, and it's starting. So I think 5 years from now, within the next 5 years, we'll see more and more authors doing their own projects.
Gotcha. We've got a couple of questions that have come in. Cami says, "How do you approach people with this? Also, do you have to wait for your sales to come up?" And I think what Cami's asking is, before you start taking a project from the written word to film, did you need to have a certain sales level, or do you think of translating to video completely differently? Like, do you think about having a certain reader base first and then springboarding, or is it a completely backwards way of thinking about it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you should put limits on yourself. I've done that too, and I've regretted it, where I've thought, like, okay, before I can allow myself to really get behind a film, I need to sell 1 million copies of that one book. And that is
Right.
not necessarily true at all. That's a lie that I told myself that kept me hamstrung for a while. Like, okay,
Mm.
as soon as if I could sell, 1 million copies, get this huge hit, 1 million copies of this book, then that's the one that I'm going to take to film. And you don't need that at all. Like, I've sold over 1 million copies now, but I didn't wait. That was just, I think, maybe almost like an excuse for me personally. I'm not saying you're
Yeah.
doing this, but maybe I was making an excuse because I was scared. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I have to wait until I have this huge hit. But you don't. You don't have to wait. What you need is a great story and a great script. But then from there, you can start building, and then almost like Field of Dreams. Like, as you start building, people who believe in you, people who believe in your project will come.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of script, TW asks, in terms of the rights for your script, how does that work? If you take an IP that you've developed, a book that you've written, and you want to bring it to the screen, how do you protect your work? Or maybe even if you're thinking of a new idea that you're going to film, when you come up with that story idea, what are the rights like for that? Because if it is a collaborative process, who owns the story rights, and how does that even work? From coming from the author world, that's just murky waters for most of us.
Right. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. There are entertainment lawyers who you can meet with and talk with, and they can drop contracts, or you could pick their brain. They've been in the industry, for decades, depending on what kind of entertainment lawyer you get. Also, when you write a script for the first time and you're worried about protecting it, excuse me, I write in Final Draft, and Final
Mhm.
Draft has an option for you to register your script.
Nice.
And I've even heard of things like every time, so our casting director was telling us too, like, when you're sending emails, saving your emails that are time stamped, that have the exact verbiage of protecting yourself in that email is also great. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do, whether it's an entertainment lawyer with a contract, sending an email that has a timestamp with clear verbiage in it, writing your script in Final Draft where you can actually go and register that just with a
Right.
few clicks. There's all kinds of different things that you can do to protect yourself and your idea.
Gotcha. Also, writing a screenplay versus writing a novel manuscript. When you're writing a novel, you are in control of how much you immerse the reader into your story. Whereas when you're writing a script, a lot of times it's very dialogue heavy, and a lot of the description is missing. There's some stage direction usually, but that's left up to the actor's interpretation or the director. What are some of the challenges of switching from that mindset of overwriting, as a novelist would do, versus just getting the ideas across in the script?
Oh my goodness, it's so much freedom, Hank.
Really?
So much freedom. Yeah, because when I'm writing a novel, it could be anywhere from, 80,000 words, 100,000 words. depending on what genre you're writing or what you want the final product to be in your book. With a script, so if we just look like a traditional hour-and-a-half movie, that's about 17,000 words compared to a novel that's 80 to
Right.
100,000 words.
Right.
So it's so much easier for me to write a script, and that goes into a more trust then, right? Because you're right when you're saying, like, when you set up a scene, you don't have a ton of description in there. You're saying, uh, five guys walk into a bar, and our hero Daniel Hunt confronts them. But what does that bar look like? I mean, you could put,
Yeah.
a dilapidated bar, but still, that's not a whole lot of description. So you got to trust your
Right.
set designer, that your director and your set designer are going to meet, and your vision is going to come across to the set designer, and they're going to create something for you. So again, it's a lot of trust and faith in a collaborative process with other people. But I have a very sick mind, Hank. I'm very sick in the head where I enjoy the risk. Like, it makes
Yeah.
my heart beat a little bit faster and it's
Yeah.
exciting. So, I mean, when you show up to set and the set's being built and there's people like, here we go, like it's game on. Like, I hope all the preparation paired off and we were on the same page this whole time because it's
Right.
happening. We've got thousands and thousands of dollars invested into each day of filming. So these
Right.
shots have to happen. And no matter how well you plan, something always goes wrong. Like, you saw Infinity System, so we shot that during COVID. So for us to be a SAG project, a
Yeah.
project approved by the Screen Actors Guild, we
Mhm.
had to submit to a very stringent policy of how we were going to get them tested for COVID before they were on site. And then when they're on site, retesting them.
Mhm.
So day one, shooting Infinity System, our very first film. Here we go, 40 people on set. Cameras are about to roll. Our hair and makeup lead test positive for COVID.
Oh no.
So we had 3 people doing hair and makeup. We went down to one person.
Oh.
So we had one person helping us with hair and makeup. We had
Mhm.
the actors. They were doing their own hair and makeup. One of our other producers, like, that's what you
Yeah.
do as a producer. Anything needs to be done. So my wife, Jennifer, was helping do hair and makeup for the actors because it had to happen. It's not like, okay, well, things didn't work out today, so we're going to try again tomorrow. Maybe on some of the big Hollywood sets where they have millions of dollars, they could do that. They could
Right.
afford to do that, but we couldn't. This was it. This had to go. The train had left
Ah,
the station.
man. Man, that's it's exciting
Yes.
and nerve-wracking at the same time, but, that's what makes life worth living, it's the unexpected that and dealing with it as it comes.
Yes, my
So
wife tells me all. It's funny that my wife and I are paired together because she is not like that at all. Not like that at all. And me, I'm trying to risk as much as I can, wherever I can.
yeah, that's me and my wife as well, Um, so Jonathan, what are you working on right now? And you're still producing about 4 books a year. What series are you writing, and what's coming up from you guys now?
Let's see. So on the film side, we have Forsaken Mercenary in post production, and that should be done soon. And then showing Infinity System, that first film,
Mhm.
going to different film festivals and meeting people, just like you would go to an author conference, meet a bunch of
Yeah,
authors, has opened so many doors, Hank.
I
So many
bet.
doors. I've signed a bunch of NDAs, but I've been hired and sought after now to work on other people's scripts, other actors who you would know in Hollywood, now working with them to develop scripts. Because one thing I take for granted, I don't take myself very seriously. I don't think what I do is special. It's fun for me. Just throw up
Yeah,
characters, imaginations. There's explosions going off in my head. Like, I get to stare at the wall and just let my imagination go. Like, that's not, to me, that's not very serious. I'm just messing around all day.
yeah,
But sometimes I lose sight of the fact not everybody is able to do that, and it's a gift
right.
that I should always be grateful for. And
Yeah,
I've been impressed upon that in Hollywood because there's a lot of people, directors that you would recognize, and actors coming and asking me to write stories because they want to do things, but they don't know how to go about constructing a story. And I'm like, oh, this is what I've been doing for the last 13 years. I could do this. So not only working on our own film projects, but now partnering with other people in the industry, in the film industry, to bring their projects to life, either in a writing capacity or a producing capacity. And then on the book side, I've been writing a new series called Jack Voss. So it's almost like I, Robot, where it is a
yeah.
thriller, but it takes place in the near future. And that has been a lot of fun to write. I don't know how long I'll take that series because it has a foot grounded in reality.
Yeah.
And I don't like what I found out is I don't like to do research because it slows down my writing process. I just like to imagine all the insanity in my
Yeah.
mind and just for my mind write that on the screen. I don't want to like have to pause and
Yeah.
then look up like how long is one of those rocket propelled grenades in an RPG? And then have to go do research. Some people enjoy that, which is great. I'm
Yeah.
glad that there are authors out there
Yeah.
who love researching because I love watching Jack Reacher and I'm glad they do
Sure.
all that research, right?
Sure.
But for me,
Yeah.
it's just not my thing. Like I don't want to have to pull myself out
Yeah.
of the flow state of writing to
Right.
go research, a there's an underwater cemetery off the east coast of Florida that looks like almost like Atlantis. I'm already
Mhm.
forgetting a lot of the terms and stuff that I searched, but I was doing all kinds of different research on that. So I love writing the Jack Voss series. It's fun. It's stretching me in a new
Yeah.
way, writing this thriller that has like a sci-fi spin to it. But I think soon I'm gonna get back to just pure Mad Max insanity.
I love it. I love it. Well, is your direct website the best way for if folks are just discovering you and want to get into all the stuff that you've got going on, is your website the best place to do that?
Yeah, they can reach me at jonathan-yanez.com. We've been doing a yearly reader meetup now for this will be
Okay.
year 5 that we're
Nice.
doing it, where readers fly in from all over the world and we get to spend a few days together, like axe throwing. We go to a pinball museum. We've rented out a movie theater for them before to all hang out, hotel suites. So we're doing that again this November. If you're interested, we'd love to have you.
Fun, fun. Well, we will link up your site in the show notes to make it easy for folks to find you. Your newest release, Rogue Savage, is that your newest book that's out?
Yeah, so Rogue Savage will actually come out next month. That's book 3 in the Jack Voss series.
Okay.
Book 2, Pack Protocol, is out now.
Gotcha, gotcha. And we will we're waiting with bated breath for news of the film when it gets finished with post production and see what the festival circuit yields. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, I am so grateful to be doing this, and I keep on reminding myself to risk more sooner. People always ask me like, what advice would you give a new author? Like, what would you tell yourself if you're starting
Yeah,
off? It's risk more sooner. Like, don't be afraid to take those risks because
I
they'll
love
pay
it.
off.
I love it. Love it. Jonathan, so much fun getting to catch up today. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show.
Hank, thanks so much for asking me.